Hey, good evening, folks, and welcome to a prep stream with me, Max Porter. I'm the Super Commoner, and this evening I will be doing some prep for the Wildlands campaign, which is tomorrow. Normally I would be running a cyberpunk game this evening, but that is not happening tonight. Instead, I am going to be showing you how to create awesome puzzles to delight and mystify your players. So, let's talk about philosophy. That is the philosophy of puzzles in RPGs. And you'll have to excuse me if I have a bit of noodles as I talk. Decided that streaming was more important than stopping to eat dinner, so dinner will be happening simultaneously. Alright. So, why have puzzles? Essentially, they are a type of challenge that some people really thrill to, but even if they don't thrill to it, a good puzzle offers almost all players. A good puzzle offers almost all players the chance to grapple with a different kind of challenge. Something that isn't a role-playing challenge. Whew. This is a spicy ramen my wife put together. Kudos to her. The role-playing challenge or the combat challenge or even the exploration kind of challenge or skill kind of challenge. All of those are good challenges. Puzzles are different, so they add some variety. But more than that, puzzles give you the chance to give you, the dungeon master, something different to do. But more than that, they lend the world an air of mystery. Like, why, we don't get an actual puzzle to grapple with enough in real life, and it's kind of a chance for the players to feel that the world is fantastical and interesting, and there are things that can be overcome with their smarts and not just their fists or their charm. Anyway, and a puzzle can add add a really awesome interlude in your campaign. Alright, so that's why I include puzzles. But if you're interested in this, you probably already are interested in including puzzles, so you want to know what my ideas are. This, by the way, is just an encounter that's coming up. Probably not going to use all these monsters, and probably not going to have a puzzle right here. Okay. So, to my way of thinking, puzzles in RPGs should be, in tabletop RPGs specifically, should play to this format's strengths. And the one supreme strength that a game with a live GM has over any other kind of game is that they can react to surprising or unexpected things that the players do. So you you can take inspiration from video game puzzles, but if you do so, don't... It would be a mistake, to my mind, to limit your solutions to the one true solution, and to allow players to come up with something clever. So, let me give an example. And it's a very pertinent example. Because there was... this is what has influenced my thinking on puzzles since the very beginning. There was an article back on the old Wizards of the Coast site, I believe, about tricks, traps, and puzzles. Something of that kind. I don't really remember the name of it. But one of the puzzles included, which I think it was on the old Wizards of the Coast site. It might have been somebody's own game mastering site. But anyway, it's out there. Tricks and traps in D&D. I have a printout of this. And the first puzzle that they talk about influenced my thinking on puzzles forever. It's simply that you describe a room where maybe after a battle, or maybe you just come upon the room by itself, there is an altar in the middle of the room with kind of, cuts in the sides of the altar. And surrounding it, etched into the floor, cut with these kind of inch-deep carvings, there is this big pentagram or other symbol, like the one I've got on screen now. And these run under the walls. So the cuts run under the walls and out of sight. So the tips of the pentagram, star, or the other runes or circles or symbols, whatever you like, run under the door. And there's no exit, or there's no exit other than the way the PCs came in by, or maybe they're searching for a treasure that they want to appear on this altar, or perhaps there is an exit, but they know there's something else going on. They know there's a secret door that opens some secret area that they would like to access, making the puzzle optional. Always a good plan. And the article went on to say a intelligence check. I mean, that's what we call it in 5e. Of course, back then it would have been some skill roll most likely, or maybe an intelligence check anyway, will reveal that these are channels carved in the floor meant to catch the blood of something sacrificed on the altar. And the blood would probably run down through the channels and under the wall where the secret door is. Aha! The players are meant to think, right? This is how the secret door is unlocked. Does it have to be blood? Does it have to be that much blood? And does it have to be blood at all? Can we just pour some water into the channel? The GM says, sure, give it a shot. So, if it's a mechanical kind of puzzle and not a magically activated one, pour some water on the altar or into the channels. It fills up the carving of the pentagram or runes, and it flows under the door, and activate some kind of locking mechanism and the walls slide down and lead to the next chamber or into a handful of enemies, or make a treasure rise up out of the floor, something fun like that. And very simple puzzle, very elegant puzzle, and I'll tell you why. It hits all of the points that the players are going to want to hit, and it doesn't take that long to solve. And you know that they will solve it eventually. Or if they absolutely cannot, the way I described it, where it's an optional thing, at least that lets them circumvent it. They can come back later if they wish. But, or you can keep giving hints until it's super obvious with intelligence checks. But what's great about that puzzle, right, is there is one true answer. And again, this is built into the implied lore. The one right answer, right, is whoever cultists or whatever, the cultists who built this place were sacrificing people or animals on this altar. The blood would flow into the channel and unlock the secret door into the inner sanctum or what have you, or cause the treasure to appear. That is the right, quote, right answer, but it doesn't have to be blood, does it? The players find a way around that. Water, maybe, there's some other liquid elsewhere in the dungeon that they can go get with a bucket. Or maybe it's wine, maybe they can use wine if there's a feast nearby. Whatever you like. Or maybe the cleric can cast Create Water, and, then they don't have to check their character sheets to see if they have water skins, etc. It allows a number of possible alternative solutions. Or maybe they skip over the water and they stick their finger under the door or a stick and push or lift up the thing that's meant to float and cause the latch to catch and change everything around. I like it. It has to be some kind of liquid, but any kind of liquid works. But I might change my mind in the moment if the players come up with something really interesting and clever. And that they're interacting. The point of a puzzle is to get the players, the point of any challenge is to get the players to interact with the world. And the point of a puzzle, a good puzzle, gets the players interacting with the world in a different way. So you can have this puzzle and throw combat on top of it. The players are trying to solve it in the moment. There could be a timed component, all kinds of things you can layer on top of this puzzle to make it harder, to make it more complex, but it is an interesting detail because it implies a sense of history. It hits that sense of time passing, that there was this thing that existed here, this place that was important to people, that they built this whole puzzle room for. And your players are going to interact with that and overcome a challenge in a way that actually gets them invested in the world. And that is so important. That is so important in a tabletop RPG, because if it's just like a meta puzzle, I think a lot of people miss this point. If it's just a meta puzzle, like you must come up with the password in order to continue in the dungeon, that is, you must solve the riddle to bypass this, to get through this door, and it's the only way into the monster's chamber. Oof. One player's... I've tried this. I can tell for you from experience that one player, or maybe two players, are going to be sitting there thinking about the puzzle, and everyone else is going to be stacking dice, or what have you, playing on their phones, checking their email. whatever, while they wait for somebody to come up with the answer to your riddle so that they can keep playing the game. The puzzle has to be, this is the important point, the puzzle has to be playing the game. Solving the puzzle has to be the act of playing the game. It can't be this separate thing, check this box to enter. Or it will just not be fun. It won't be fun. And maybe one person will have fun who's like a puzzle lover. But they won't be having fun because they are playing D&D. They'll be having fun because they like solving puzzles. And that's not really what you're there for. So, all that said, why do I have this image up on screen? I'll let you think about that. Noodle on that while I grab a bite of noodles here. Alright. So, when you're playing online, as I am playing these days, you can still have puzzles that players can come up with a number of different solutions for that encourages creativity and engaging with the game on the game's terms, rather than it being a separate meta thing. But it's harder, and I'll tell you why. With the example I gave, you know what would really help people with that puzzle? You know what would really help people with a riddle puzzle? You know what would make a door riddle puzzle actually good? A handout. Why? Because a handout is a physical object that people can engage with. Maybe your riddle is, maybe you write up the riddle and then you cut it into pieces and you give each player a piece of paper. Or maybe it's multiple lines. That would probably be better. It's a poem with multiple lines, and each line of the poem, you don't know what order they're in. Each player, each character, as they walk into the room, receives one line of the poem, directly into their mind, or a magic mouth that only they can hear, or some other such fantastical construction to get this puzzle going. And then they have to interact with each other and talk. Getting the players talking between each other is playing the game. That is critical. And it's visceral. A handout is visceral. It's an object that you give people. People love getting stuff. A friend of mine, who's also a game master, mentioned this to me, and I always found it to be true. People love getting stuff. They like to have something handed to them, and they like to acquire half of D&D, right? Is you can always tempt players by offering them treasure. They may not go for it, especially in today's D&D where people are more story focused. We might have a character who doesn't care about treasure, even as I do. Several, I think. But regardless, people love getting stuff, even if it's not treasure, even if it's a handout with a part of a puzzle. That will get even the people who are normally quiet and who, are just there to be along for the ride, and you should never force those people to be in the spotlight if they don't want to be. But they can engage a little bit. If they have a piece of the puzzle, in this example, if they have a one line of the poem that they then have to share with other people, they have to physically hand over their page or read it off or what have you. That's a great way to make that puzzle engaging. Now, there's still other problems, like with that example, like, blocking the players until they solve this thing wouldn't necessarily be fun, unless there's like some other consequence to failure, not just wasting time, but like there's a big monster coming, the room is filling with water, or there's a fire room that's powering up, and it'll periodically blast them until they solve this. But those are all great ways of upping the ante so that people actually care about a puzzle. But we'll get to that in a minute. That doesn't work. You can't give people physical handouts in an online game, and I've been struggling with this because it's the best tool in your arsenal. It really is for making lots of things visceral in the game. I mean, I consider like a treasure map to be a kind of a puzzle. Handing people a treasure map is a surefire way to get people invested in a quest. Well, there are even more surefire ways, but that's a good one. But making it visceral, making it real, giving them a physical object, best tool in your arsenal, can't do it online. Can't do it in an online game. And I've tried various things, like I have these decks of cards, right, for item cards, and it's one of the things you can do on Roll20, which I like to use. Now, it's fine. The decks of cards and the tables that I use on Roll20, they work fine. They're really not as good as something physical. So I've got to do the best I can, and I've got to try and use the online format to make puzzles as good as they can be. So, what did I come up with? It is before you. A chopped up picture, a picture assembly puzzle. So I've taken this image, which I found for free on Pixabay. It's by Peter Linforth. I should put up a credit, actually. Hang on, let me take a bite first. I just searched like Rune Circle or something. That's real small. And I just popped it into Paint, Microsoft Paint, and chopped it up into these pieces and uploaded each piece as a separate image in Roll20. There we go. That's better. And I then turned them all into drawings on Roll20. That setting allows them to be moved around without popping to a grid if I had a grid on this page. So I could drop them on any map, like this map, for example, with all my feral hogs on it and yetis. I probably have to delete these before I actually use this map. And you can move the puzzle pieces around, and have a puzzle, just drop the pieces on top of a dungeon map when they enter a puzzle room, and then kind of have an interlude where it's a puzzle solving time. And this would be kind of similar to the idea of a handout, puzzle door, where there's a trap or something that's activating, that's timed. And I'm going to give, when I use this puzzle, I have 7 or 8 players, depending. I'll put this piece down, and I'll copy these pieces over into that window, and I'll just drop them on, and and make them into tokens. They're drawings so that they don't, shrink down to the grid, but I can make them tokens. And I'll give each player control over one of the puzzle pieces. And then, if I'm feeling like... and then in order to make the puzzle have impact, I also have grabbed a timer GIF, which is by Ali Armstrong on Imgur. So I can drop this on the board and just be like, go. And then the player's gonna have to freak out and actually work together. I can make it multiple minutes by just dropping this 1 minute timer in multiple times. And then the players are going to have to work together to solve this puzzle and put the pieces together, each one of them controlling a different piece in real time against the timer. And if the timer ticks down, I'm not going to have something catastrophic happen, but a nasty trap, or maybe a gate opens and some undead rush in to attack, or maybe maybe I'll describe as each minute ticks down that the room is filling farther and farther with water. See, and I've got to watch these timers in order to activate them at the same time. I can delete the previous one as the minutes tick down. And I think that'll be a really fun, although stressful, challenge for the players with the timer. I really don't know if I'll use the timer the first time out because I've got to test this. Or I might make the time, I might put a ridiculous number of minutes. I mean, this is a ridiculously easy puzzle, right? I'm not trying to break the players' minds. I'm trying to make it challenging by making them each control a different piece of it. And I'd come up with some kind of in-game thing for that. Now, you might be saying, hey, the players are not able, with this kind of puzzle, if there's a magic rune or something, or there's stone blocks that need to be slid around on the floor, or maybe there's a glowing drawing that appears in the room that you've got to piece together somehow, and each piece is attaching itself to one of you or matching the motion of your hands, so you can kind of wave it around into place. Some kind of gimmick to support this idea. And I think that'll be a really fun kind of interlude. Now, one thing that this doesn't do is hit that first point, right? It'll engage the players. With the timer, it will have impact. With giving each player a different piece of the puzzle, it will force the players to work together. Because if somebody's not moving their piece into the right place in time, everyone's going to be yelling at them. Or they're going to have to figure out who has control of which piece, which I think I might, at least for the first time when they're still figuring out, what is going to happen, what this is, I might give them, I'm going to pad it. I'll probably, give them some ridiculous amount of time, 5 minutes. It is not going to take them 5 minutes to solve this. This is a ridiculously easy one. Now, I have another one. Oh, sorry. Let me finish that point. The one thing this doesn't do is the first thing I talked about, which is allow the players to come up with, a creative solution. There's really only one way to solve this, which is assemble the rune in time. But that's really just because I can describe something in a room But again, online and without handouts, it's not going to engage all the players, and I have 7 to 8 of them. I have a ridiculous number of players. And if I describe something in a room like that example that influenced my thinking so early on, you know, where there's like channels or whatever, there's maybe, I know that the 3 most talkative players are going to like do stuff. You know, my barbarian player, who's very, like, loud and outgoing, is going to, you know, run up and be like, oh, I'll cut myself. And the warlock player is going to be like, well, you know, maybe, you know, we can do this without hurting ourselves. And, you know, maybe the bard, whose the player is kind of into puzzles, will speak up potentially and be like, oh, yeah, you know, we don't have to hurt ourselves. We can, I know... I can see how this puzzle's going to work. And they would solve it, and that would be fun. But it won't engage. There's just like everybody else will either be quiet or unhelpful. Or they'll be trying to solve it too, but you know, the quiet players, they're not going to really engage with it. And they're just going to kind of wait for everybody else. You know, they're going to wait until I call. Thing is, they're going to wait until I call on them. They're not going to know what to do, especially the players who aren't familiar with Dungeons and Dragons. What's great about, what I really, really like about this idea is not only does this take advantage of, you know, features on Roll20, but it will... what was I talking about? Not only will it take advantage of features on Roll20, but it's going to make it, it's going to level the playing field. That's what I wanted to say. So I have some players who are pretty well versed in D&D, or at least similar games, and they've picked up on D&D really quickly. And I have some players who are totally new to the genre and don't quite understand that they can do anything, that they need to flex their creative muscles. This is going to level the playing field because this isn't a D&D thing. Now, it's going to engage the players in the game. It's going to engage them with the world because there's a thing that they have to interact with, or that they want to interact with, or that hopefully I'll come up with something clever to, you know, put this in a dungeon, so that they have a sense of time and it feels like it has a story behind it. But it's going to level the playing field, and it's going to make people, you know, nobody's going to have any undue advantage in doing this. It's going to force all. Everybody's going to need everybody else because they're all going to have a piece of the puzzle. So that was long-winded, but that is my idea. I'm going to test this out probably tomorrow because I'm excited about it. And hopefully it goes great and becomes a staple of my online RPG games going forward. Very proud of this idea. I wish that it had like a more creative component to it, but I think that could defeat the purpose, that could defeat the point of including some of the more quiet and less experienced players. You'll have to excuse me. All right. I'm having Mexican, spicy Mexican meatball ramen. Because why not? My wife's an amazing cook. Kate, you're awesome. Okay. So let's talk about how I'm going. I've got to figure out how I'm going to insert this in tomorrow's game. So, let's think about this. My players are currently here. They are headed... No, sorry, here. This hex. 1613. I don't know if you can see that. They're right here. So, they are headed south from there to here in order to check up on the brother of one of the player characters who, unfortunately, has been captured by an evil cult. And actually magically brainwashed, which is going to be interesting going forward. So they're going to... I can be fairly certain of what they're going to do. Never can be completely certain players are going to do, but I'm fairly certain they're going to travel through these two hexes. The DCs will likely be not too high. I mean, they're in the mountains now. So actually, these forested mountains can be pretty scary. And it's right by this orc camp on one side and these goblin-infested ruins on the other. So it might not be an entirely safe journey. But if they make their rolls, they don't get these big red X's, they get all green check marks. They'll travel for 2 days and make it down here. When they get there, I'm planning to have a very emotional family reunion kind of scene with one of our, the youngest characters and the most innocent character, certainly, Kiri, the Aarakocra cleric, who kind of snuck out of home to go off and have adventures. And she's very young, and now her parents will have lost both their daughter and their son. So I have that kind of, percolating in my mind. I probably could do with writing up some of those lines, but that's not what this stream is mainly about. Then I'm going to have they are going to, the players are going to ask about Shadir, her brother, and then they will be directed to that encounter that I just showed. Although it won't look exactly like that. So they're going to say, about half a day's flight. Man, excuse me. That pepper. Whew, it's strong. They're going to say half a day's flight south in the mountains. Your brother found these mysterious ruins with etched hieroglyphics that he said were fascinating. And maybe I should come up with something more that he mentioned so that the players have more clues to go on. But in any case, he flew down there and he didn't come back, and there's monsters. There's this hole in the ground, and these monsters seem to have taken him. And I mean, the players are not going to be able to resist. I mean, they might head into, there's a chance they'll head and get some assistance from the fortress, which I'd probably allow to happen. They could go to the temple where our cleric connected with her deity. They could even go into town, Wildstone right here, which is why I have some sketched up ideas on Wildstone. But they will make their way here eventually. And then they're going to head in here. They're going to find where Shadir was kidnapped. And I've got all these monsters lined up. I'm not going to use them all. I've got some fire-themed ones and some earth-themed ones. I'm going to lean toward, even though I have this lava thing going on, I'm going to lean toward earth and earth theme, because that is appropriate to my villain. And basically, this is just a big encounter that's going to draw a big friggin' arrow toward a faraway location on this map. Specifically, way up here, this volcano. So these creatures have kind of used this magical lava earth teleportation thing to get here. And it burst up out of the ground and captured the curly feathered Aarakocra that they found. And they would like to capture the rest of Akiri's family, but they're up in the trees in the forest. And they have not thus far been successful. So there's going to be some enemies up here. There could be an encounter up here. And then there's these great big holes that beckon. And that will lead to a dungeon. I've got this awesome volcanic dungeon by Najor. And I can do some fun tricks with lighting in here. It might be worth it to experiment with doing some fun lighting, actually. Doing some of the advanced lighting in Roll20. Might be pretty fun to do that. And there's a teleportation circle here. So this is a special, like, you know, it's got some kind of earth component to it. It can teleport between these earth temples. And that will be something that the players cannot necessarily unlock. I think maybe this is meant to interact with this. Like maybe you step in there and then this comes through, or you end up in this hole. I might do something like that. But if I'm gonna have a puzzle, it's going to be somewhere in here. Now, I wish that I had something redder. Something red. So, what if we made a different puzzle? What if we made a puzzle more like the door password one that I talked about, but the interesting kind? Where there's some stakes to it. Not just, you must check this box to continue. But there's something that matters about it, and it involves all the players. And when it's a door we're talking about specifically, there are ways to bypass doors that do not involve solving the puzzle in front of you. And I would certainly be open to any ideas the players might have. So if I stick some kind of barrier at some of the narrow parts here, and it can only be bypassed, or maybe this circle has a puzzle on it, but I don't really want the players to teleport ultra far to the north, although I might not prevent them. This is a very dangerous region. I've set things up so that in concentric circles, there's easier monsters nearer where they started, except for like specific locations on the map, like, you know, this dragon lair, etc. And then the monsters, just like in, you know, the wild wandering monsters, get harder and harder the farther out they go. So if they teleport up here, for example, it is going to be very, very dangerous and deadly for them. But they might see if I let them, they'll feel compelled to do so. Because her brother has been captured. And I don't really want to... no, I really don't think I should let them. I'll tell you what I could do, though. I could put a puzzle on that teleportation circle and leave an obvious piece missing. So that the players have to go... Basically, it'll function like a key. They've got to go find the key in order to chase down the scarred earth cult. These earth-based cultists. And catch up with her brother and rescue him. That would be... That, I think, turning it into kind of a... the start of a quest instead of a... something I really don't want them to do, I think would be a much cleverer idea. So there's another type of puzzle that I'm going to talk about now. Where are you? I've also got a bunch of runes. And normally I wouldn't well, I already discussed how to make a puzzle that's basically a password or a code interesting, like in Skyrim, where you have there's like a clue early on in the dungeon, and later on you've got to arrange the runes in the correct order based on what you saw earlier. I'm gonna straight up steal that idea. So I have some runes to upload. Assuming the files aren't super large. And I think this is going to... I could use this puzzle, nothing wrong with it. But I think for my volcanic dungeon, I think some kind of runes that have this kind of look will be pretty friggin' cool. So, these runes also have names. Ansuz, Berkana, Dagaz. So what I'm going to do is have there be something in the beginning of the dungeon. I'm going to straight up steal the Skyrim idea. Maybe one of the monsters... Yeah, maybe one of the monsters wrote down on a piece of paper the passcode. That would be pretty cool. And I'm probably not going to make the passcode super long, but I can I can add in another component to this, which is a skill check. Now, you never want your puzzles, a good puzzle is not solved by a skill check. But if it involves a skill check as part of it, and it has to be a part that is not necessary to the puzzle. Like there's a way around it, right? That whole letting the players be creative thing. If there's a way around the skill check, then it's okay, I think. I'm gonna put on, like, I'm gonna make a handout or something. And I'm gonna put on that handout the names of the runes rather than the order they're drawn. And then I'll let the players make a skill check on each name of a rune in order to kind of describe it. Or another option would be only one of the players can read off of the names. There's like an index, one of the monsters has the names of runes with the descriptions, and then they can have to figure it out from the describing the rune. Like, I might describe, I'll say like the rune Dagaz looks like two triangles with their pointing toward one another, right? And then they can correctly identify this one. And then it would not, they would say, well, it's not... Hang on a second. slow to upload when I'm streaming. Not this one, right? They'll be like, oh, that's kind of like triangles, but they're pointing away from each other. Although they're kind of more like arrows, but doesn't matter. So that would be an interesting thing, just to kind of match the descriptions of the runes. That would let me do it without a skill check. And of course, this puzzle gets harder the more rune options I put on. And I might not, for kind of introducing this puzzle concept, I might not make it ridiculously hard. I've got some more rune images, but I don't want to spend any more time uploading them, so I'm going to pause there. Alright, that's plenty for now. And these definitely look like they could be in a lava dungeon. They look like these metal forge things. Also from Pixabay. So free images online. And okay, so I'm not going to do it out here. This is just a straight up encounter with terrain, and I'm going to throw in some crazy things like, you know, the lava is bubbling and causing these hazards to splash out. That'll be like lava bombs flying out. Wouldn't that be freaking crazy? That would make this a really nuts encounter, which I think it should be. But I'm basically gonna put two puzzles in here in this dungeon, and one of them is going to be toward the beginning, or one of them is going to be solvable, and the other one won't be. So I'm going to make an unsolvable puzzle. It's going to be very obviously unsolvable. Right here. On the teleportation circle. And I'm going to give them a clue. I've got to remember to give them a clue about where they can find the missing piece. That's very important. Should probably be writing this down as I say it, but that's okay. I'll remember. I've got one glowing orb here. Let's use that as the barrier. So I've got this, like, glowing rock thing. This can be my lava bomb. It just kind of looked like that turns into this, but that's alright. I'm going to copy that. It's going to be this hot rock. And where should I put it? Should it be towards the beginning of this dungeon? So the entrance to the dungeon is here. And they can get here. Very short little dungeon. 5-room dungeon principle that I'm using here. I think it would make the most sense if I stuck it like here. And that's like glowing red hot. And I'll be like, yeah, you can see, like, you know, an area past it, but there's no way. If it's right at the entrance, though, well, it might not be so bad to be right at the entrance. I should have some monsters flee down here, maybe. It would be interesting if I put the puzzle here, the solvable puzzle here. All I think it would be lame to, like, solve one puzzle and then immediately find this other puzzle. So I'm going to put this... I think it's going to be more interesting here. And I'm going to turn this into a drawing so that I can easily resize it. Yeah, you can kind of see past it a little bit. And if I use the advanced lighting... Lionation, my friend! How you doing? Hey, bro. Oh man, you're having a tough time finding an apartment, aren't you? That's rough. I'm doing okay, man. I'm working on this dungeon with puzzles for tomorrow's game. Wish you could join us. Bro, text Kate. Text Kate and ask about her cousins. And give her all the information. Those are not great backups. Yeah, Kate has some cousins in the area. And we were talking about pinging them to see if you needed something as a backup. We were just talking about it today. Yeah, man, of course. You know, I can't guarantee anything because we haven't asked them yet. But ask Kate. See what she says. All right. I know something's gonna work out, man. If not in the next 2 days, then just when you need it most. I know it. Keep at it. That's exactly what happened to us. Something came in clutch at the last moment. Yep. That's exactly what happened. Actually, in our case, you know what happened? We had decided to leave the state. We had decided that, you know, we were just going to give up. And then we had like one more apartment showing. And that one worked out. And was perfect. And, you know, it was like that day. Like, we had decided, and then, like, the next morning, they were like, oh, hey, you want to come in right now? Let's sign right now. And that was it. Yeah. Meant to be. Alright. So, back to puzzles. Well, man, I know you're going to figure something out, and text Kate. I think you have her number. Or I can send it to you. And we'll see if you have another backup option. Okay? But don't worry. Don't worry. It'll work out. It'll work out. One way or another. And even if it doesn't work out, you know, in time, it'll work out soon enough. All right. So I'm going to have these runes on that boulder. And if I give each player a rune, that's going to be a very long combination indeed. Because I've potentially got 8 players. And even 7 would be quite a number. On the other hand, if I throw some monsters, which is, I mean, you know, it's a long combination, but maybe there are only 7 runes, and you just have to put them in the right order. And I'm thinking that it's going to kind of be like these metal plates on this boulder. Actually, I could stick the boulder here, and then it like rolls into this niche. It's kind of interesting. If I wanted to make the puzzle optional instead of necessary to proceed, I could stick it here, and then there's like a treasure or something in this room. Ooh. And then the boulder rolls across and lands in there. Oh, I like that better. I like that better. Let's do that. Let's do that. Alternatively, it could be a danger, like, it could be like a trapped thing, where it's like, you know, the rune combination you need to touch, or, I mean, there's some very obvious traps that could happen here. Volcanic ones, rock falls, or this red-hot boulder crushing you. Oh man, I like it. I like the idea of it being to lead into a treasure room. Like, the monsters are like, we don't want this blocking our egress, because we already have another unsolvable, currently, combination on the teleportation circle. But we need a place to, like, stash stuff. We'll hide that behind another magical puzzle. I did mention that Shadir found these ruins with hieroglyphics. Maybe this is what he was talking about. Maybe he was trying to solve this puzzle. And the treasure that's behind that boulder maybe the... Trying to did you play Skyrim? Yeah, this is I said at the beginning, working on this puzzle, that I'm straight up stealing this idea from Skyrim. For there to be like a rune combo that's like hinted at early on in the dungeon. I'm straight up stealing the idea. I'm putting my own twist on it, of course. 2 hours trying to solve it, had to look at the hand in my inventory and getting so mad I didn't play it for like 2 weeks. That's pretty funny, man. It took me a while to figure out that I could manipulate the hand to like look at it from different angles or something like that. But yeah, it's we got right. The hand is a key in Skyrim. In my case, I'm going to give a very, very clear hint to whatever key I drop. If our other brother ends up working at Bethesda, that would be you know, right where I live, practically. So he needs to talk to me. All right. So this dungeon map, made by Najor on DeviantArt, has a built-in choice, which is which tunnel do you go down? That's not really a super meaningful choice, unless it is has some further impact that I'm gonna have to think about. Like, which challenge do you want to deal with? Like, maybe one tunnel has monsters, the other one has traps. What if the boulder puzzle gets solved and the boulder rolls off to block a single path? Depending on the way the puzzle is solved, it rolls in a different direction. That's interesting. I don't want to overdo it, you know? Like, I don't want to put too many friggin' puzzles in this thing. Although that's a pretty cool idea. Because I could put the boulder back at the beginning where I was talking about originally. Or a different boulder back at the beginning. And if you solve the puzzle, if you put one combination of runes makes it roll here. And the other combination of runes makes it roll here. But I don't know why, you know, like, who cares, right? Like, what is the impact that's going to have? I don't know. That's just kind of a neat thing, really. No broader impact. Yeah. So in my, well, Broseph, if you find your living situation, you might be playing in this dungeon, but you'd have to find it soon, I guess, and get all set up. So that's probably fine. Plus, you're not going to know everything. Yeah, it doesn't have any broader impact. I mean, it'd be kind of a neat thing, but it wouldn't really matter. It might be a good way of introducing the rune thing concept, though. I don't have a good idea for it yet. Man, this looks more and more like a meatball to me. You know what? It looks... Yeah. Yeah, so I like this because I'm going to make this a treasure room. And there could certainly be some interesting treasures in there. What if these rune things are like metal metal pieces that you can insert into a hole in the wall. And then it could be bind on pickup, like only that way only one player can hold one at the same time. It's kind of a obvious gimmick. You remember Kate's famous meatballs, huh? I'm having spicy Mexican meatball ramen for dinner tonight. It's pretty good stuff. Pretty good stuff. It's an unusual combo of flavors, but it's good. An epic fusion indeed. Alright. I've got a better idea. Forget the bind on pickup thing. I'm going to make it so there's exactly 7. Expecting there to be 7 players. Alright. And I can drop these in the dungeon. Oh, this won't let people move them around, though. If they're buttons they can push, that won't let people move them around. Whereas if they're like metal blocks with runes on them, maybe I'll just say that they're friggin' heavy. Maybe they're these massive metal blocks. And I'll be like, yeah, one person can move this, but you can only move one at a time. And that'll be kind of how I kind of get the players to each need to move one. Alternatively, that forms kind of a wall. And if I had them slide it around, no, that doesn't really make sense. They'll just be kind of a blown up version of it. So I'll say, next to the boulder, there are these metal buttons. Oh, maybe they're on the floor and you have to stand on them in a particular order. And then they can move their characters on top of the rune. That's not a bad idea. Like if these glowing metal plates are in the floor, and then if they stand on them in the right order, then they've got to jump out of the way because this friggin' boulder is going to roll forward. That's kind of neat. not going to penalize them for skipping over it, other than the penalty that they won't see, which is missing the treasure. See, actually making a puzzle matter in an interesting way is the hardest part. Maybe the boulder does... Maybe there is a trap component. What if there is a trap component? What about a... I think Bref is going to struggle with this one. Well, he's a large, heavy dude. He can stand on things. Interestingly, Bref might be the one who can kind of figure out a way of bypassing this trap to get that boulder to move. Because he's, you know, the strongest. Alright. Maybe once you get... There's like a trap here where if you don't stand on the runes in the right order, it powers up and like explodes with fire or a rock fall or something. That would not be fun. Actually, you know, what would be fun is if there was a trap that emerged from here and then the boulder acted as like it stops the gouts of flame. So the boulder rolls in there and then the fire stops powering up and blasting. I like that. And then you can also bypass it by like darting past her really quick and just dealing with the fire damage. And then there's also, I'm kind of like putting earth and fire together in this dungeon, so earth, boulder, fire, gout of flame. I think I've cracked it. I think that's the answer. So I'll just be like... Another fun thing I could do is make it a timer. I could drop a timer on here. Ah. That's awkward. Okay. And I could just be, yeah. And as the players try to solve this puzzle, I mean, they'll solve it quick if I've already given them, like, the paper. But if, as they try and solve it, you know, I'll just put this timer down. And then every 1 minute of real time. But I need something in there for the boulder to block. Like a glowing red circle of fire. Or something. Like that. Or maybe it's a little less spell-like and more, you know, like almost natural. Like there's just like a lava thing here, like a bubbling. I'll already be familiar with lava bombs if I use them in the previous fight. Although that doesn't look like a thing that's just sitting there, does it? But if there was like lava bubbling up from below, kind of. Yeah, that doesn't look right. Actually, you know what it could be? It's like a just like a hole. Like a volcanic. Yeah. Not a campfire. Not a fire temple map. Ooh, fire elemental. No, I have my floor thing that I've used before. Isn't there usually a campaign tonight? Yeah, but 2 out of 3 players could not make it. So I am doing prep for tomorrow's game instead. So if I size that so that it looks like the boulder could conceivably... it doesn't look really right. And that kind of looks like holes. Coals, rather. But if I grab... another hole... like that... Oh, that doesn't have see-through in the middle? Thought I had one with... No, they're all kind of dark holes. Well, that doesn't look like a natural hole. That looks like... Not that. That's kind of neat, actually. So if it looks like something the boulder could plug. Let's try this one instead. Map layer. And then the bold, and then if you get the, if you step on these runes in the correct order, then the boulder goes and rolls over there, chunk, and blocks that up. Otherwise, it continuously gouts flame every minute or something. That's pretty interesting. Have fun dancing, dude. Did you text Kate? You haven't yet? Alright, well, I'll mention it to her. Okay, tomorrow if your last chance falls through. Got it. Good luck, bro. Everybody wish Leo good luck as he heads off to go dancing. Good night, man. I'm just kind of fooling around with this thing, but I think that I have made some pretty good points about puzzles, as opposed to like traps in D&D, because traps can be a part of puzzles, and a puzzle can be a solution to a trap, and they can certainly work well in tandem. But I think a puzzle on its own is a very worthwhile thing. I'm going to make a handout now, because I need a cool way to give my players the solution to this puzzle. And a handout, well, this is a non-physical handout, of course, but it should work well enough. It won't have the impact that a physical one does, but it will be cooler than me not having a graphic. They shouldn't be called handouts, they should be called graphics. Kind of trying to decide whether I like the natural broken hole look better, or the kind of more pre-planned ring. I mean, I guess the ring makes more sense with this whole complicated puzzle that exists. Like, I don't know why else. I wish that the shadow on this ring was darker in the middle instead of being dark like at random places. But oh, it's already on the map layer. Okay. Just wants to be like that. Yeah, I think that makes more sense. More pre-planned, kind of a thing left over from when this temple was new. Alright. Scarred Earth Cult Rune Notation. Rune Reminder. It's going to be in nobody's journal yet. Okay. A cult of the Scarred Earth. Alright, so somebody wrote down the password and has it on them when the players search the bodies, maybe, or drops it. Because they might not search the bodies. Ooh, I need a burned parchment for this. I need a burned one. Well, I'll figure that out later. It's gonna be more than I'm gonna do on the stream right now. But there you have it, folks. The way that I am thinking about puzzles right now, how to make awesome puzzles for your players, especially for online tabletop RPGs, and some thoughts on RPG puzzles in general. I hope that you have enjoyed. I hope that my prep stream was interesting to you. I hope you weren't bored at any point, because I am pretty excited to throw this in front of my players and see what they make of it. We, of course, might not get this far tomorrow. They might get involved in some kind of, wandering monster encounter way out here in the mountains, and that might take up our whole session. But somehow I just think that they're going to make short work of it. I really do. So I have to open like a better image editing program, and my computer is not happy with me doing that and streaming. So and besides, I don't want to give away the code prematurely anyway. So I think that you can come up with that on your own. So I will call it quits for tonight. Thank you so much to Lion Nation, my brother, for jumping on, and I hope you find an apartment soon, man. Thank you to anyone who watches this later, anyone who's been hanging out. Thank you to anybody who throws me a subscription or follow. Anything comes in and chats. You're awesome. Thank you so much. Makes me feel good and helps support the stream. So I'm gonna call it a night, and onward to more awesome RPG gaming. I will be on tomorrow evening for the Wildlands campaign, which is this campaign, and all my lovely players will see how they fare against the many dangers of this land. I also stream during the week and do prep videos like this. Normally, on Saturdays, I am running a cyberpunk fantasy game using the Karma in the Dark rule set, which is a really fun way to play your Shadowrun-esque games. And we've just kicked off that campaign, so it is easy to catch up on still. In fact, there's a link in the description both to all the previous Wildlands campaign videos that have been actually streamed, and the new Cyberpunk game, as well as Rare Imports, which was a campaign that we finished recently. Anyway, I'm rambling, but a good night to you. That's all for tonight. Bye-bye. I hope you can join again soon.